Hi everyone, I'm Sophia Bryan, Principal Attorney at the Law Boss Firm, where we help Jamaicans at home and abroad build and preserve their legacy through real estate and estate planning. Today I'm going to be speaking to you about real estate as it relates to adding a family member or loved one's name onto your title. Now, it sounds very simple because you're probably thinking it's just a form. You're probably imagining it's a form that you fill out and you add the person's name and that's it. However, not so. In Jamaica, when you're adding a family member or a loved one's name to your title, the process is similar to outrightly selling or buying. It's a conveyance. It's very similar to a conveyance. The difference is there is no exchange of money, right? So you're adding the family member or loved one's name, so they're not paying you anything. It's a gift. You're adding their name. However, the government of Jamaica sees it as a transfer of an asset. So the difference is you're not necessarily giving the whole of it, or you could possibly be gifting them the entire thing or a portion of it. And so once there is a transfer of any asset, you have to pay what is called transfer taxes. The other thing is that whenever persons are paying their property taxes, they will see a value stated on their property taxes receipt. And it's based on that value that you see reflected on the property tax receipt. That's what guides what you're going to be paying on an annual basis. Well, when it comes down to actually transferring the asset, the taxes that you pay, it's based up on the current market value. So if you bought the property for $1 million 10 years ago, you would imagine, even if it's just simple inflation, you'd imagine that the current market value is very different from what it would have been 10 years ago. And so that's what you're going to be paying your transfer taxes are. Now you're thinking, I'm not a valuator. How will I know what the current market value is? Do I have to spend money to get a valuator? Well, yes and no. The thing is, if you want to avoid delays, and for some reason you have the resource, you have access to someone that can do a valuation report for you within a reasonable amount of time, you can do that and submit it along with your application to gift the property to that family member or a loved one. However, the government of Jamaica does have its own valuators, and they are a part of the assessment process when determining what transfer taxes are supposed to be paid. So you have the option, if you want to ensure that you're not going to overpay, if you want to ensure that what your evaluator says, you trust a evaluator, you want to ensure that whatever their opinion is, that's what you're going to be paying taxes on, sure, go ahead and get the valuation done. However, if you want to do a calculated estimation based on what other properties are being sold for in that similar area, you can do that, and then it's up to them to make an assessment as to whether or not your guess or your calculated estimation, whether or not it's correct. So that's one aspect of it. So there's a transfer instrument that's going to be prepared. The relevant data is provided on that. The relevant portions are noted. And you of course, have to ensure that your property taxes are up to date. And proof of that has to be given to the government of Jamaica for them to even process the transaction, right? So your property taxes have to be up to date and you have to pay your transfer taxes. So once that is done, your assessment is not complete as yet. So once you've given the government tax office what they are due with respect to transfer taxes, the document has to now be assessed again by another agency that's responsible for actually endorsing the title with the new owner's name or the person that you're gifting a portion of the property to. There's an assessment process. They have to verify, whether or not you are going to be paying them any duties. And because you would have stated that it's a gift, they will just ensure that the proper information is reflected on the document so that they are accurate, because they have to be accurate. You only get 2 copies of your title, so it's referred to as a duplicate certificate. So title's office has one and you get one, or the mortgage institution that you're working with gets one. And so you have to ensure that there are no mistakes. No mistakes are going to be made. Hence the reason why there is an assessment period. So just to recap, whenever you're transferring property, you're gifting land, whether there's a house or a structure on it or not, it's similar to a conveyance process in the context of Jamaica. Right, so as I was saying, transferring or adding somebody's name onto your title, it's not easy peasy type of a thing. Not to say that I'm not saying that it's overly complicated, but it can be a lengthy process, and it's a multi-step process, and it's not just simply getting a title and adding somebody else's name onto it. The process is similar to as though you were doing a full-on conveyance. The only difference is there's no agreement for sale in the picture, and so you wouldn't have to be worrying about preparing that document. But the other documents that would pertain in a conveyance, those things have to be done. And depending on your resources, depending on the value of the land, and you may or may not be reluctant to utilize the valuators that are at the tax office of Jamaica. So you might want to get your own valuation done, but they have their own licensed valuators, and so you can lean on those persons' expertise if you want to. So if you have questions about this process further, if I haven't answered everything in the video, feel free to share a comment down below. Contact numbers are there: 990-7313. That's 876-990-7313. You can send a WhatsApp message there, or you can call the office 618-9846, and we'd be happy to set up a time to talk with you about what you're trying to do. Life is in the gray, so some persons it may be a little bit more complicated. We often find ourselves helping newlyweds, or a situation where a child or a parent is giving property to each other, and they want to go through that process as quickly as possible. So we are happy to help. We have the support for you, and if you have any questions, as I said before, you can feel free to leave them in the comment section or send a direct message, and I'll be happy to answer those inquiries. All right, so thank you. And if you have questions about any topic that you'd want me to share some insights on video, I'd be happy to look into that. So feel free to go ahead and leave those in the comments as well. All right, bye.